Today I will talk about risk, how people think about risk. And there are two concepts that you need to take into account perceived risk and actual risk. And why do we worry more about some risk than others? First, perceived risk. So, perceived risk is the way that people think about risk, which means how risky or unsafe people think an activity is. However, the actual risk is the true risk. This based on how many people were injured or hurt by one activity. So let's take an example. Let's compare two ways to travel: driving a car versus flying. With driving a car, many people they don't worry about this. Of course, there's still risk, but we are not afraid of driving a car. So the perceived risk of driving a car is very low. However, flying, when it comes to flying an airplane, many people worry about it. The risk is higher and the perceived risk also increase. However, when it comes to actual risk, it will be totally different. The actual risk of driving a car is more than flying an airplane because there are many accidents related to driving a car than flying an airplane. Actually, flying an airplane is 40 times safer than driving a car. So it is our perception that flying is more dangerous. So why? Why do we worry about some risks more than others? Actually, perceived risk the way we perceive risk is different in different circumstances, and circumstances really change our perception about risk. There are three main factors that explain why do we feel an activity is less or more risky than others. First, control. Do Is that activity is the one that we can control or not? For example, take an example of driving and flying. So when we drive a car, we can control it. We can decide where to go or how fast we go. So driving a car is less risky. However, when it comes to flying, we don't control the airplane, so we feel that flying is more risky. The second factor is natural versus unnatural, which means that the activity, when is natural, it is less risky than unnatural activity. For example, being out in the sun versus being near the nuclear power plant. So many people think that the sun is less risky because it is natural. However, in fact, more people get cancer every year because of the sun than nuclear power plant. So it is just our perception. The final factor is how common an activity is. So everyday's activity we tend to think is less risky. Let's take an example of accidents in the home versus an airplane accident. Accidents in the home they occur all the time, so we don't worry as much. However, airplane accident it is something very unusual, and when it do occur, when it do occurs, it will be on the news and it gets a lot of attention. So people tend to worry about it more. So, in conclusion, perception about risk uh, is different in different circumstances, and you can see the reason why we have different perception about risk, perceived risk versus actual risk.